So the mall is going to be about one of Dwight's trauma.
Yeah, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. Well, a plane is the obvious answer. There aren't many other ways to travel 3,000 miles from my home in jolly old England to the Grand Quay in Montreal, where the DBD 10th anniversary party celebration convention event took place on Sunday the 14th of June. But just saying, I flew to the DBD Montreal event doesn't do any of the past week of travels and tribulations justice. I have so many stories from this week away and so many cool people I met on these adventures that I cannot wait to share with you. Outside of the event itself, I found myself in a karaoke room jamming with senior gameplay programmer John Wang, made everyone drink lots of cups of tea, discovered that I love Montreal's metro system almost as much as I hate its buses. Notice that the Quebecois Fear Factor host kinda looks like Jeffrey Epstein with a beard, and against all odds I received proof that Kaneki players do in fact have souls, and can have fulfilling relationships with their loved ones. All in one chaotic, incredible week, and it is so much more than I can fit into one video. So I'm not going to. I'm splitting it into two instead. Today's video is going to be about the roadmap and all the stuff announced and broadcasted during the DBD livestream towards the end of the event day. I'm working on a second video about the event itself and the wider Canada trip that I went on around it, but that will take much longer. And to be frank, my voice needed to recover a little bit. Karaoke on Saturday into screaming "Frankstone mentioned" at 400 decibels on Sunday did a real number on my voice. Not to mention the damage done by trying to speak French for a week. There is so much to look forward to in DBD's immediate future, so let's take a look together and get excited for what's in store. Welcome, friends and foes, survivors and killers, to DBD's best roadmap in history. So, let's start with the chapters, shall we? Before we do though, I just wanted to get in on that anniversary spirit. It's time for generosity and kindness, and more people playing Jason, because we all know there aren't enough Jasons running around. So hidden in this video are three codes that you can put into the DBD store to redeem Jason Voorhees for free on the house, courtesy of Behaviour themselves. So let me know when you redeem those codes. Happy anniversary, everyone! So, let's talk about the anniversary. Year 11 is going to be odd going forwards, because this is the first time that we've known every single killer that we're getting between one anniversary and the next. Turns out you don't have to worry about leakers if you just tell everyone everything months in advance. Let's talk first about the one we already knew. The Chorus of Sin chapter featuring the Judgment and Aurora, coming out in August. This was easily the least revelatory segment of the livestream since we've been following this chapter for so long now, but it was awesome to see the Judgment and Aurora's concept art in all their glory. And while we basically all knew that it was going to be the August chapter, it was nice to get that confirmed. The DBD audio design panel from earlier in the day actually included a nice fragment of audio stuff for Chorus of Sin. We heard what sounds like part of the terror radius for the Judgment when Michelle April was showing us how he works, which was pretty cool.
That's kind of a mock-up terror radius, and obviously when I'm done like this part, then I will add some real instrument and some will go away, some will come back.
But realistically, we are not here for the Grimoire. It is a rare case of Behaviour communicating a little bit too well about an upcoming release to have anything left to surprise us with. Terrifier, on the other hand, that was an announcement worth announcing. While Terrified didn't get leaked before the announcement, well, it mostly didn't, Behaviour did put up several teasers in the week or two leading up to the event, which did seem to allude to Art the Clown. Teasers featuring presents, garbage bags, workbenches, images that we already associate with Terrifier, and after Terrifier 2 producer Steve Barton implied a while ago that art in DBD wasn't an if, but a when, it definitely seemed realistic enough. But that didn't make the final reveal of David Howard fucking Thornton on stage as art any less amazing. I heard some folks on the internet claiming that the enthusiasm during Art's reveal on stage was, subdued, like nobody really cared. And let me tell you from personal experience, as someone who was there, that's bullshit. The crowd goes mild. My arse it did. People loved the Terrifier announcement. It was probably the loudest a crowd got at any point during the night. The only competition really was the Scooby-Doo skins announced earlier in the evening. And I can prove it because I recorded it myself, live at 5 or 6 rows from the front. Let me show you how it was in real life and then tell me the crowd goes mild. The energy after the Terrifier announcement was electric. David Howard Thornton was taking photos and high-fiving people after the announcement. Art the Clown gave me a high five. I am the happiest man on the planet right now. Terrifier has been one of my most requested licenses for years, so I'm naturally over the fucking moon about this announcement. Art truly is a modern slasher icon, and these movies are only getting better with each new release, so to see that recognised in our little game is a real treat. I know some people have some legitimate problems with the Terrifier series, and I'll be talking more about that closer to the time. TLDR, I get it. And I also know some people are just looking for things to get mad at with this release, and the idea of Terrifier actually exciting people doesn't fit with that agenda. I know some folks will be unhappy with this release, and to those folks I am sorry. But now you know how I felt about Five Nights at Freddy's, and Tokyo Ghoul, and Stranger Things, and The Walking Dead, and Castlevania. Look, just let me have this, okay? And you know what? Terrifier wasn't even the new chapter I was most hyped for from that evening's announcements, because I haven't talked about the casting of Frank Stone yet. My relationship with the casting of Frank Stone is a long and loving one. I freely acknowledge that the game is far from perfect. The performance is rough, and at moments the narrative paths do feel kind of rigid. But as a DBD lore enthusiast, I actually really like the narrative Teakoff's wields, and I refuse to hold the technical limitations of Supermassive against the quality of the story Frank Stone told. It was a game that felt like it was kind of made for me, but Behavior's reluctance to do anything with Frank Stone has been a constant source of frustration for me and my fellow Frank Stoners. Originally the plan was to make Frank Stone a legendary skin for the Trapper, but that idea got received pretty poorly, probably the only thing at the big PAX event last year that got anything less than an electric response. When they wound the skin back and said they were looking for another way to bring Frank Stone to the fog, I was excited at the prospect of a Frank Stone chapter, but the wording implied that that might not be what's actually happening. Maybe they weren't going to make him a killer or a survivor, but instead a secret third thing. Maybe he takes over the anniversary event from Trix or something, and we get a Frank Stone themed annual event. But no, we actually got the chapter, and I am overjoyed. Frank Stone represents the biggest investment DBD has ever made into its lore and original storytelling, maybe with one exception that we'll talk about later, and to see him finally come to the game after all this time feels like a triumph for those of us who really care about the world of DBD. Tension and Problems Frank Stone was one of my favourite videos I've ever made in that series, and the response it got warmed my heart because it showed that even if Frank Stone as a game wasn't remembered amazingly, that doesn't mean the demand for the champion to join the fog wasn't there. Far from it. Terrifier was a chapter I desperately wanted, but Frank Stone means that much more to me, because it is a sign that DBD's rich and meaty world building and the casting of Frank Stone still has some appreciation in it, even if the game didn't do well. It's a leap of faith, one that will hopefully translate to better sales of the chapter and maybe a resurgence in interest in the casting of Frank Stone. If nothing else, the game will now serve as the single coolest piece of background lore for any chapter ever, and that's pretty cool even in isolation. It is worth noting though, it looks like the champion will be arriving in the fog on his own, since he's getting a solo survivor coming with him in the mid-chapter in May. They don't tend to add mid-chapter survivors after chapters that contain both killers and survivors, although it has been done before. And I'd be surprised if this chapter contained a map as well, given how sparse new maps have been in the past year or two, and the fact that no map was mentioned. Year 10 only brought 2 new maps, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria and Trix's Delusion, and we've got 1 map locked in for Year 11, the lore-heavy Mall map coming in December. I'm a little disappointed in seemingly not getting a Frank Stone survivor in this March release. Linda Castle would have been a great choice, but there's nothing saying that we're not going to get Frank Stone characters add legendary cosmetics later down the line. And that chance gets especially good if the champion is received well as a solo killer, and there's enough interest to get characters like Linda, Sam, and Maddie into the game. And a lot of people would absolutely love Bonnie, so I'm still holding out hope. Oh, did that hit look a bit bad for anybody else? With Jason being such a popular killer these days, it's become increasingly clear that he has that ranged killer curse, where playing against him on overseas servers is significantly worse than it is on your own servers due to semi-random ping spikes that always seem to come in at the worst possible moments, which is a problem when DBD has a habit of putting you on the wrong servers every so often. Bloody hell, I'm on high ping now as well, aren't I? That sucks. Hang on, give me a second. There we go, that should fix it. If only there was a service that allowed you to bypass or at least mitigate this issue by giving you a stable connection and normalizing your ping, improving the gaming experience even if DBD does its DBD thing and shoves you all on the wrong server. That's where today's video sponsor ExitLag comes into its own to stabilize your gameplay and smooth out your chasers. Knowing my audience, I doubt ExitLag needs much introduction. A non-zero amount of you are probably using the service already, and for good reason. ExitLag smooths out your ping by connecting you up to multiple high-powered, low-latency servers that link directly to the game you're playing, and the redundancies of multiple servers ensures that a single server error won't cause you to lag or freeze. ExitLag also has extensive diagnostic tools that help you understand your connection and optimize your performance, things like boosting your frame rate to help your PC handle the questionably optimized mess that DBD can be sometimes. ExitLag is trusted by players around the world with delivering stable connections and clear optimization assistance. And with ranked DBD and some likely performance-heavy graphical updates on the horizon, I can think of no finer investment in the future of your gaming experience. It's dead easy to set up. Just download the application, choose the game, and immediately feel the result once you start playing, and you can try it for free for 72 hours to see if the service is right for you. Just scan the QR code on screen right now, or click on the link in the description or pinned comment to test it out for yourself, but I'm confident you'll find it useful. When you're playing a game as janky as DBD, ExitLag can literally be a game changer. Thank you ExitLag for sponsoring this video. Now, shall we get back to the anniversary? We know exactly what killers we're getting this year and when. The Judgment in August, Art the Clown the Terrifier in November, and Frank Stone the Champion in March, but the future of survivors and maps is a little bit less clear. We got Shane Wigwas at time of filming today, just a couple of hours ago, and we know that another survivor is coming in Frank Stone's mid-chapter. But that's it. I would be shocked if Sienna wasn't coming alongside Art in the Terrifier chapter, and we don't know if the survivor alongside Frank Stone is going to be original or licensed, they didn't say. But the stuff I'm most uncertain about is maps. Jason didn't get one, obviously, it doesn't seem like Chorus of Sin's going to get one, and there's been no mention of a Terrifier or Frank Stone map at all. But what we do know is that in the Terrifier mid-chapter we are getting a new original map based on a creepy, disused mall, a highly sought-after location for a map designed to capitalise on the modern horror trend of backroom-style liminal spaces. According to Dave Richard, this map will be heavily grounded in the lore, and be an exploration of Dwight's personal trauma. Which sounds like a really fun concept for a map, especially as an immediate follow-up to a map that explicitly explored Trickster's psyche. I like that maps seem to be evolving strictly from physical representations of space into Silent Hill-style character studies in physical form. Apparently it's an indoor map designed like an outdoor map, which I'm sure will be refreshing, given that we just got an outdoor map designed like an indoor map. I hope this isn't the only new map we're getting in Year 11, it certainly sounds like it is, but if it is, I think I'm probably okay with that. The concept sounds compelling, we will just have to see how it plays. And on the topic of new releases, could we just talk for a second about Shane Wigwas? Shane is a wonderful new original survivor. I'll be making a new video on his lore as soon as I can, and I'm reaching out to a couple of indigenous creators to help me here because when it comes to Native American representation and history, it is very much unexplored territory for me. I know it took some serious discipline for behaviour to not make Sierra Wigwas, the 20-something skinny, attractive woman with a conspicuously light skin tone, but everything about Shane stands out from the rest of the Survivor roster. The key art for the chapter is done in this beautiful native style. His outfits and personal style are completely distinct from every other survivor, and the role he fulfills in the cast is one of a new kind of hero, one whose enemies aren't supernatural, but institutional, in a way similar to, but distinct from, Zarina, the most anti-establishment survivor we've had to date, and one of DBD's all-time best-written characters. I'll be digging into Shane's lore very soon, so I will leave it here for now, but suffice to say he's a really cool character, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds for him. But that leaves the only mystery release of year 11, the solo survivor coming in Frank Stone's mid-chapter. We weren't told whether this is going to be licensed or original. Having 2 solo original survivors in 1 year would be pretty unprecedented, so I'm willing to bet it's a license. Maybe 2027 is the year that we get Tony Hawk, Isaac Clarke, Frank West, or even James A. Janice joining the roster. But if I can be entirely honest, I have no expectations for this release at all, because the entire rest of the year is such an unbelievably stacked run of releases. Jason was pretty cool, Shane is an awesome new original survivor, the Grimoire was the best part of last year, so seeing that bear fruit in August was going to be very satisfying, and Terrifier and the casting of Frank Stone are 2 of my most wanted chapters ever. Everything really is coming up William P. Bush after so many consecutive chapters that just bored me to tears. But before we continue, I just want to emphasise something here. A few people I've noticed in the past few weeks have been a little suspicious about how unusually positive I've been about Jason and DBD as a whole lately. And I just want to affirm a few things right now. I'm not being positive about stuff because big behaviour has gotten to me and bought my loyalty by paying for my event ticket. At the end of the day, I still spent over £1,000 to get to that event in the first place. I'm being positive about this roadmap because it's exciting and makes me happy. It's really not much more complicated than that. And honestly, I'm not used to being excited about future DBD releases, especially licensed ones, so this is a bit of a novelty for me. But for those of you looking for a little bit more cynicism out of me, don't worry, it is very much coming. After all, this video is just about the roadmap, which was undoubtedly the high point of the Montreal event, and not so much about the event itself. I have rather a lot more to say about that, and that'll be getting its own dedicated video, which will require a lot more work and time. That's not to say that there was nothing that concerned me about the livestream itself. Disregarding the technical issues, which I'm given to understand plague the Twitch and YouTube streams, there were 2 things that gave me cause for alarm when watching the announcements in person. Jason Blum on stage for the DBD movie, and the Ice Nine Kills song Play Dead. Okay, so I've been waiting patiently for more news on the DBD movie, and did expect that we would see an update on it in the anniversary event, and I was really pleasantly surprised by the choice of director. Þórður Pálsson is an Icelandic director who's only directed 1 feature film before, The Damned in 2024. I think I might have been the only person in that room at the convention who wasn't up on that stage who'd actually seen The Damned. Honestly, the movie is pretty good. After watching it completely, I see the value that he could bring to a DBD project, and if this movie becomes a breakout success of a new European horror director, I am all for it. What concerned me, however, was Jason Blum and his repeated insistence that this movie is quote-unquote for the fans, as in the same way that Five Nights at Freddy's was for the fans. When a big corporate filmmaker guy says that his priority is making a movie for the fans, I can't help but think that that's awfully convenient for him, because most fans of pieces of media will happily spend money on anything regardless of actual artistic merit or quality if it jingles enough keys at them, and using the FNAF movies as an example, when the second FNAF movie especially is one of the most worthless exercises in key jangling in recent cinema history, is terrifying. However, once I sat down and thought about it a little bit, I realised I have far more faith in the DBD movie being good, simply because the DBD movie has a better production team behind it than FNAF did. The DBD movie is being written by David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, aka Big Dave, an experienced horror film writer, and Alexander Aja is one of my all-time favourite horror filmmakers currently working today. These are 2 people who know how to make a high-quality horror screenplay. The FNAF movies are written primarily or entirely by Scott Cawthon, a man who wouldn't know a good story if it took him out for a steak dinner, an evening trip to the theatre, and a sensual massage by moonlight to round out the night. So while Jason Blum does scare me in a lot of ways, he at least seems to have attached some good talent to this film, and filming should be starting late next year, so I'm cautiously optimistic about how this is going to go. Emphasis on cautiously. The other underwhelming moment of the stream was about something that I was actually pretty excited for. The Ice Nine Kills collaboration and their new song, Play Dead. I've been an Ice Nine Kills fan for several years. Ironically, I didn't get into them because of their horror music, but instead because Ash Costello, the lead singer of New Year's Day, who I've listened to for years, appeared in the music video for Rainy Day, their Resident Evil song from INK's second Silver Scream album, Welcome to Horrorwood. I watched the Rainy Day video, really liked it, and after a few days of binge listening and watching both their Silver Scream albums and more, congratulations, I'm an Ink fan now. With that in mind, the idea of an Ice Nine Kills collaboration with DBD felt supernatural and really exciting to me. But when we were actually at the convention and saw the music video for Play Dead, I was less than sold. To be fair, I've listened to the song since the convention, and I feel a lot better about it on second listening than I did on my first viewing. Ice Nine Kills songs have been a little bit shaky since Welcome to Horrorwood, and aside from their Terrifier song, a work of art, it's generally not been amazing. But when I wasn't watching it at a convention stage full of loud, noisy people, I actually really like Play Dead. The chorus is one of their all-time best, and it reminds me a lot of their songs from the first Silver Scream album. But when we were there in that crowd on the day itself, the loud, noisy body of players throughout the song meant that we were forced to focus on the video, and the video was kind of ass. I'm sure if you are an Ice Nine Kills fan who doesn't know anything about DBD, this was a fine video, with some fun animation and some great cosplays by the band members. But as a DBD player, I cannot help but think so much of this looked off. The uncanny valley of airbrushed Spencer Dwight, the walking nurse, the Legion being surprisingly lore-friendly and having End Fury base kit, the harsh lighting. None of it looked quite the way it should, and it made the video look very cheap and tacky. Spencer showed a few BTS shots of the animation team behind the video, which proved that it wasn't AI generated, which, that's nice. But it was still a very underwhelming thing to see on the big screen at the event. Honestly, I think Ice Nine Kills is such a prickly release that it probably deserves its own video shortly. I think this probably deserves a video of its own once that full thing comes out with, Tony Hawk and whatnot. That is if I don't get copyright strike for making it. Ice Nine Kills was pretty conclusively the low point of the event livestream, but to be fair, it was also one of the most memorable cosmetic collections previewed in that stream, simply because the rest I mostly didn't care about. I've never been someone who's been enormously fussy about skins. I'm very protective about the IPs that we get in the game as full chapters, but as skins I really don't care. You can have all sorts of outrageous stuff, and I won't be anywhere near as gatekeepy, for want of a better word, than I will be over one of our 4 precious release slots every year. With that in mind, let's go Scooby-Doo! We got tons of cosmetic collections revealed at the event. We got Glenn and Negan skins revealed for the Walking Dead collection. We got Scooby-Doo and Diablo skins confirmed as well, and all of these seem fine. I know Negan not be a killer will tick off some people, but I think folks will get used to it once they hear Jeffrey Dean Morgan interacting with the rest of the Walking Dead crew in-game. And Scooby-Doo got possibly the loudest, or at least second loudest scream of the entire night. I cannot tell you how hyped people were to go solving some mysteries. We know Dwight is going to have the Scooby onesie, but we don't know about the others yet. My bets are on Felix as Fred, Claudette as Velma, Kate or Talita as Daphne, and Hanato or Jake as Shaggy. Apparently this skin is just a collection and will be limited to survivors only, probably just Scooby and the gang. But if it does well, which I assume by the electric response it will, I wouldn't say no to a second wave with more survivors and maybe even some killers added to the mix. A Black Knight skin for the Knight, Old Iron Face for the Trapper, or Sarah Ravencroft for the Nurse could be pretty cool. Not to mention the absolutely fucking filthy amount of money Behaviour could make with Hex Girl skins for Michaela, Sable and V. Again, I have no real attachment to Diablo or to Scooby-Doo or even The Walking Dead, but they don't hurt me or anybody else who doesn't love these IPs, so why not go crazy with it? There was one cosmetic reveal I was very attached to though, what I've been pushing for a little while as its own chapter, and while I'm quite sad that we're never going to get it now as a proper chapter, I'm still very happy with seeing it in the fog at all. Silent Hill F, and its incredible protagonist, Shimizu Hinako. Silent Hill F Tension and Problems was an episode I really enjoyed making, even though it didn't do very well. Because Silent Hill F is a game I really loved talking about, and loved playing through, because that game has a lot in common with my favourite Silent Hill game, Silent Hill 3. The model looks really nice, and even though we're not getting a second chapter, it is nice to see DBD's Silent Hill license agreement is still healthy, and Cheryl might have been added to my P100 shortlist if she wasn't already on it. So what do we have so far? We have a good balance of high-quality original content with Shane Wigwas, the Mall map and the Chorus of Sin chapter, and interesting new license stuff with Terrifier and a bunch of third-party license skins covering a wide variety of tastes, both old and new. The DBD movie is chugging along nicely, the casting of Frank Stone's finally getting some love, and I didn't even mention the 1v1 or zombies game modes, the upcoming voice lines for the new characters, or Behaviour covering more indie titles again. Don't Fret, Mr. Magpie's card game, and the one I'm most interested in, Terrible Lizards. We're even getting Ice Nine Kills songs and cosmetics for the game, even if the implementation has been a little rocky so far. What could be better than all of this exciting new stuff? Oh yeah, they're basically rebuilding half the game. At the event, we got early previews of a total graphical overhaul for Dead by Daylight, complete with a retool of the sound systems, the addition of dynamic weather, new models and physics for the characters, and a fresh coat of paint on the maps. I'll make no bones about it. Switch players are fucking cooked, man. DBD already runs atrociously on Switch to the point that some killers physically don't work on the platform. The graphical overhaul and the likely heavy amount of recoding that will come as a result of it will just explode your ancient little console like a claymore mine. Obviously this update is still a ways off. The scope could change, it could be delayed, it could just not work at all when it drops. But aside from what it's going to do to Switch players, this looks really, really promising. If it all goes to plan here, big if, DBD is going to look and feel more like a proper modern game, and hopefully this will provide a more stable codebase to fix visual bugs too. Who am I kidding, the bugs will be so much worse. However it spins out, this graphical overhaul will be the most consequential addition to DBD in the long term of anything on this stream. Art and Frank Stone and the rest are exciting, but they're just releases, we get those all the time. Polishing it up to modern standards, however, will set DBD up wonderfully for the years to come if it's done correctly, and could be a spectacular waste of time and money unlike any other if it fails to deliver. For better or worse, this feature will be the make or break for the future of DBD, more than anything else in this stream, except maybe one thing, and it probably is the single most slept on announcement in the entire stream. Modding tools becoming available to players. I'm going to build the Skull Merchant rework myself, in a cave with a bunch of scraps. Modding tools will completely change the landscape of Dead by Daylight content creation, especially for people like me who are always coming up with power concepts or rework concepts for perks and killers. I cannot wait for these tools to eventually come to the game and the community gets to unleash their creativity and we'll get like, I don't know, Blight Racing or DBD version of Bastion fishing or something. I don't know what people were coming up with, but this is the kind of tool that will absolutely pay dividends in the long term, and if it is done well, might just change the landscape of DBD forever. I'll make no bones about it. This roadmap of content has me the most excited I've ever been about the future of DBD releases, and that is a huge deal considering how bummed out I've been for a long time with just a brick wall of releases that didn't work for me. Pretending to be interested or excited for chapters like Tokyo Ghoul and FNAF and engaging with their source material to make videos on them was soul-crushingly boring. Stranger Things Part 2 was the worst I've ever felt about any chapter ever, and chapters I might have found interesting like Sinister Grace got messed up by implementation problems that made them hit not quite as hard as they should have done. And there's still plenty of room for behaviour to fuck these releases up. Art the Clown or Frank Stone could have the most boring generic powers on the planet, the Judgment and Aurora's lore could be written in crayon, the graphical overhaul might make the game unplayable for anyone not running it on a NASA supercomputer, the modding tools might just be used to recreate Overwatch's sexual harassment simulator. But I have been waiting so patiently for so long for DBD to have news that excites me again. When Terrifier got announced, I realised I'd forgotten how it felt to be genuinely hyped for a licensed release, because the last time I did was in, 2021? 2022 maybe? I have been so patiently waiting for this game to get good again, and yes, they might bungle the implementation, but I can't shake the feeling that Year 11 is the reward for my patience, dealing with all the bullshit of Year 9 and 10. All it takes now is for behaviour to stick the landing, so no pressure here, but you really better not mess this one up. And as I was mouthing into the camera behind Eric Pope during the livestream, buff Skull Merchant, you cowards. I'll see you next time. Good girl, Cassie, you did so good.